Hello, welcome to Bloom's Newsroom. I'm Dallas Musselhorn.
And I'm Stacy Lace.
And today we'll be talking about the ancient era.
So here's Bambi Turtle Bubble with the ancient era.
Bambi Turtle Bubble, and this is the ancient era with the Middle East. Humans migrated from Africa, and agriculture originated, which triggered the Neolithic Revolution. Metal tools were discovered, and the next era of change emerged, the Bronze Age. Metal hoes and tools allowed farmers to work more efficiently, and metal weapons emerged. The Indus River civilization formed, one of the first civilizations of all time. Irrigation for agriculture was developed, and patriarchal structures emerged. Overuse of soil and trees led to erosion and flooding, and the Tigris-Euphrates civilization formed in Mesopotamia. Pottery and art became more developed, and cuneiform, an early type of writing, was developed by the Sumerians. The Sumerians also developed science, including the sun and stars, and abstract thoughts about nature. Ziggurats formed the first monumental architecture in the Middle East, and city-states developed as a major part of Sumerian politics. Kings, nobles, and a priesthood developed and controlled land operated by slaves. Warfare was the main source of these slaves. The Babylonians conquered the Middle East, and their king, Hammurabi, made the first law code, the Code of Hammurabi. Large political units declined in favor of city-states or regional kingdoms, and Phoenicians eventually created a simplified alphabet with only 22 letters. Judaism then became the world's first monotheistic religion. Domesticated animals. Come! Oh, wait.
The classical era happened from 600 BCE, that is before Clayton era, to 600 CE, that is Clayton era. And now we're talking about the Middle East in the classical era. As Asuryan and Roman empires conquered Jewish states, growth of dysphoric Jewish communities grew in Middle East and the Mediterranean.
And during 1200 BCE, Middle East was mostly small states after Egyptian and Hittite empires fell.
New powers like Assyrians and Persians stepped in, but Cyrus the Great was responsible for establishing a massive Persian empire across the Middle East.
Politically, there was a wide tolerance and host of many large languages and cultures.
However, they also used strong authoritarian streaks throughout their political journey.
They had centralized law and a lot of tax collection.
The idea of widespread participation in politics was widely rejected.
Rules were made vital infrastructure for empires, like roads, the first postal system, and regularly placed rest stops.
This helped connect the Central and Eastern Asia.
Substantial bureaucracy with military nobility.
Spies were sent out to make sure regional officers remained loyal to the central government.
Religiously, there was Zoroastrianism religion, revised polytheistic tradition by introducing monotheism. Animistic religion material existed in the battle between good and evil. Stressed moral choice. Life on deferred death. After death. Life after death.
Much more spiritual, didn't have human-like gods. Religion had a wide hold. Ideas strongly affected ideas of Christians, Judaism, and Muslims.
There was distinct art and architecture from this religion.
Now the culture. The quaint system was change in farming and irrigation, and it spread diseases.
A widening gender differences emerged, and men took over more agricultural production, and men were more dominant, and women stayed at home.
There was a huge class gap created.
Because of the use of money.
And then rating systems improved. And we done. And that wasn't that classical era just riveting. Now we're going to talk about the post-classical era. It happened from 600 Clayton era to 1450 Clayton era.
So, we're going to go and switch to Skylar Wax in the other newsroom for all the gossip in the post-classical era.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm going to be informing you of the news of the post-classical era today, from 500 to 1450 CE. The pre-Islamic Arabian world, the Bedouin nomadic pastoralists founded Mecca, the most important city in the transcontinental trading system. The site of Kaaba and Mecca became the most important religious city in the Islamic world. Northeast of Mecca was Medina, the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad, in 610 AD. Under his rule, the Bedouin religion became monotheistic, worshipping Allah. After the Prophet's death, deep divisions between the Sunnis and the Shias caused a split in Islam lasting till today. Even with internal division, Arabs spread Islam into Africa and Eurasia. The Umayyads, Islam's first conquerors, spread Islam north into Turkey and east into Asia. At this time, only Muslims were first-class citizens. Their fall was due to a lavish lifestyle and unfit rulers. They were overthrown by the Abbasids and fled to Spain. The Abbasid made Islam a universal religion. The rule lasted from the 9th to the 13th century. The harem and the veil became twin symbols of women's confinement, but Islam retained its appeal because it was monotheistic and all believers were equal in the eyes of Allah. Sufism insisted on a clear distinction between Allah and humans. In Sudanic states, Islam was combined with existing traditions.
It was ugly. Now, we're going to be talking about the early modern era. That happened from 1450 to 1750. Now, to my good friend, Stacy Lace.
Hi. For the early modern era, Muslim world is essentially destroyed by the Mongols. But then return to the Muslims! The Ottoman Empire was the largest, but there was the Safavid Empire in Afghanistan and Iran, and Mughal empires in northern India. They were the gunpowder empires. So the Ottomans went from frontier warriors to empire builders. They were Turks, fleeing the Mongols and led by Osman. They won because of guns, and so they defeated Constantinople. Huge naval power in the Mediterranean, and their empire spread to Egypt and across North Africa. They threatened Vienna, but then said, nah, we're not going to kill you. Social hierarchy was based on the warfare, so the warrior class was at the top. Then came the army of Janissaries. They were Christian slaves, and they became super powerful. The sultans and their court controlled the people in the economy. Constantinople was restored. The Hagia Sophia was converted from a cathedral to a mosque, and they built aqueducts, and the city was super cool. Architectural blended with Muslim and Byzantine empires. Then came all the coffee houses, mansions, rest houses, schools, hospitals, gardens, and thriving markets. The artisans joined together in guilds. Language switched to Turkish. Then the Ottoman Empire declined. It was a long decline because they were around for about 600 years, so it took a while for them to die. So then, by the 17th century, they started retreating from Russia, Europe, and Arab lands. It was too large to be maintained, and so the regional administration led to corrupt officials and the problems of imperial administration. Leaders went from military leaders to pampered men. So the powers of the military faded. The Ottomans fell further behind Europe. Janissaries didn't want military change because they still wanted to be the best, so there was a lot of conflict. Their Muslim sea power ended, and the empire changed around the world. The empire changing around the world affected the Ottoman finances. Refusal to accept European ideas doomed the empire, so they fell behind scientifically, technologically, commercially, with trade and warfare. The Shia challenge of the Safavids was one of the biggest reasons they failed. The Shia versus Sunni Muslim issue was a big issue. So, the Shia believed that Muhammad's ancestors and successor should be his successor. So it started with the Sufi mystic Salih al-Din wanted to purify and reform Islam, so they became enemies. The Battle of Shaldrin's Shia versus Sunni battle for everything is still going on. Ottomans couldn't contain the empire, so the Safavid Empire couldn't move further west. So, when the Safavids Shahs were in charge, there was years of turmoil, and the height of the empire was from 1587 to 1629, and they gave warrior nobility status too. So, the state and religion, they were like Persia. They had grand titles, full theocracy, and forced conversions to Shiism, and they restored the mosques and infrastructure. Society and gender roles, they were both led by, both the Ottoman Empire and the Safavids were led by warriors, had financial drains on peasants, and encouraged handicraft trade, workshops, and engineers. Women were subordinated to fathers and husbands. They were kept secluded and veiled. Some women rebelled, but concubines happened. They mostly stayed in the house, but they could get divorced. So the decline of the Safavid Empire ended because the leaders kept in seclusion, and they didn't have anyone running them. So, Mughals, an apex of Muslim civilization. The founding of the Mughal Empire, Babur lost his kingdom in Asia, so he took North India.
By late 18th, early 19th century, the Ottoman Empire central government had grown weak. Despite these widespread reforms, the Ottomans still lagged behind more industrial developed European nations. Russian, looking to expand, engaged in the Crimean War with the Ottoman Empire but lost due to the Ottoman Empire's European allies. The Ottoman Empire was referred to the sick man of Europe. The European question was, should they continue to exist? By 1913, all of the Ottoman Empire territories were independent or taken over by European power. Muhammad Ali, founder of dynasty that ruled Egypt, developed cotton textile industries in Egypt. Several leaders in the Ottoman Empire tried to regain power through reforms. Anti-imperial resistance led to the contraction of the Ottoman Empire.
Wow, the industrial era was cool, huh, Pete?
Wow.
Yeah. The contemporary era.
The Middle East in the contemporary era. Before World War I, the states that were around were the Ottoman Empire, Persia, Egypt, Qatar, Oman, and Aden. During World War I, the Ottomans joined the Axis powers, which included Germany and Italy. Since the Ottomans lost the war, their land got carved up, and present-day Turkey emerged as a state. During World War I, the Young Turks in the Ottoman Empire started the Armenian Genocide and massacred 1 million Armenian peoples. Post-World War I, the states that emerged were the independent state of Turkey, the French Mandate of Syria, Iran, an independent country, the British Mandate of Mesopotamia, Lebanon, the British Mandate of Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Egypt. Egypt during this time started to rebel against their colonial country of Britain, and in 1922 they gained independence. Britain and France still had colonies in the Middle East during World War II, when France and Britain were declared war upon, so the colonies were also technically declared war upon. In more recent times, countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates dominate the oil and gas industries. The United States declared war on Iraq when Saddam Hussein was said to have nuclear weapons. The U.S. also declared war on terrorism after the 9/11 attacks in New York City and put soldiers into Afghanistan and Iraq. The country of Iran is still under Shiite law and is very oppressive to their citizens. Islam is still the most dominant religion in the world today. Also, after World War II, the Zionists wanted a separate state, which they decided on Palestine after they were targeted in World War II. The Arabs also wanted to have Palestine, so they decided that they would split it into two states, Palestine for the Arabs and Israel for the Jewish people.